Hey everyone, it's me Charlie here, welcome back. Local multiplayer has fundamentally shaped the trajectory of video game development as a medium. At its best, it represents all the hallmarks of what makes games special, bringing people of all ages and walks of life together in a way that's accessible, fun, dynamic, and often a little too competitive. Picture right now, if you can, the biggest normie in your life. That person probably knows what Mario Kart is. They may have even played it. But how has our relationship with local multiplayer gaming changed? And what does its future hold? That is what this video is about, yes. The year is 1958. An American physicist by the name of William Higginbotham is the head of the instrumentation division at the Brookhaven National Laboratory in Upton, New York. Brookhaven's annual public exhibition is coming up, and Higginbotham wants to make some sort of an interactive display to entertain the visitors and liven up the place. While reading the instruction manual for one of their computers, he learns that it can calculate ballistic missile trajectories through simulating wind resistance. Naturally, his first thought is, yeah, I'm gonna make tennis with this actually. After taking only a few hours to design, then only 3 weeks to actually make, alongside technician Robert Dvorak, Tennis for Two is displayed cruelly on an oscilloscope and was played with 2 custom aluminium controllers. Its bare-bone visuals show a representation of a tennis court from the side, where players can adjust the angle of their shots with a knob on their controller and try to hit the ball over the net by pressing a button. During the 3-day exhibition, Tennis for Two is a hit, especially with the high school students. Hundreds line up to play, and according to Higginbotham, you couldn't pull them away from it. He didn't know it yet, but Higginbotham had just created the very first multiplayer video game. The very first domino to fall in what would ultimately produce the $138 million multiplayer gaming industry of today. It wasn't until the late 70s and early 80s though that multiplayer gaming really started to gain momentum. Through the popularity of the arcade scene, classics like Pong and Gunfight first introduced casual audiences to the medium of gaming as a whole, establishing it early on as a shared, social experience. The transition to home gaming consoles around the turn of the decade, however, is where the true concept of local multiplayer games was born. The success of Atari and Nintendo's entertainment system saw that for the most part, party games had suddenly shifted from the arcade to the bedroom or the living room. Conventions like genre began to become established. RPGs, puzzle games, sports games, fighting games, all occupied their own niche, and introduced cooperative and competitive gameplay. Additionally, LAN gaming emerged in the late 80s, enabling players to connect multiple computers for multiplayer gameplay, popularized by titles like Doom and Warcraft. Similarly, the mid-2000s transition from dial-up to DSL made online deathmatch matchmaking a practicality for FPS fans, and the golden age of massive multiplayer online games, or MMOs, and MOBAs, or multiplayer online battle arenas, was ushered in by the introduction of broadband internet from the mid to late 2000s. The stigma gaming had obtained during the 80s as the antisocial pursuit of children hadn't been shed in this era, and the medium started to truly become mainstream. Hollywood was making video game movies to various success, and further, the internet hadn't just allowed players to connect in-game, it had also allowed a distinct subculture to foster. Fan sites, forums, and even the early adoption of Let's Plays and shows on Twitch and YouTube had turned the strategy guide of old into a form of entertainment in itself.
Test, test, test. Okay. I'm gonna give something experimental a shot for the immortal here. Here we go. This is player's commentary, which is sort of, have you ever seen a DVD? You know how they do like director's commentary and stuff? Well, imagine if some jackass who was not involved in the creation of the movie at all decided to just comment on what he thought watching the movie would be like. Well, that's kind of what we are here now.
For those who participated, the world of multiplayer games had become far bigger than just the games themselves. Approximations of communities had formed. For better or worse, gaming was here to stay, as an art form and as a developing cash cow, and local multiplayer gaming was a core pillar to its success. Today, same-screen co-op gaming finds itself in many ways reinvented. The late 2010s began to see local multiplayer trend downwards as online matchmaking became the dominant flavor of the day. And by the turn of the 2020s, the combined impact of the COVID pandemic, the emergence of platforms like Discord, and the wider normalization of live streaming as a parasocial pastime saw its demand decrease. Through watching someone else play or thoroughly dissect your favorite game, viewers could now effectively substitute having to actually share their gaming experiences with another human being. These days, you don't have to look any further than YouTube itself to find 10 similar looking nerdy white guys to validate all your gaming opinions. And why even bother initiate that annual 2-week Minecraft phase when you can watch your favorite streamer basically do the same thing with their new SMP every few months. To further the issue, it's become nearly unthinkable for a modern video game to not be connected to the internet in some way or another. For years now, even when buying games physically, you still often end up downloading a bloated, unoptimized version from the cloud anyway, that'll take up 17 terabytes worth on your drive, truly making the often heavily pushed online aspects of most AAA titles nearly impossible to avoid. While very much still expected of sports, racing, and most party games, there was a time not even that long ago when split screen was simply a given. It just went without saying that you and your mate could boot up the new Halo campaign and get stuck in, on one screen, with one Xbox and one copy of the game. But of the top 100 best-selling games in 2021, only 11% featured either local co-op or multiplayer gameplay. When Halo 5 Guardians launched in 2015 without split-screen support, 343 Industries called it one of the most difficult decisions we've ever had to make as a studio. They knew that for most fans, the very idea of Halo was friends together in the same room playing. At the time, they claimed the decision was influenced by a need to maintain 60 FPS performance, massive scale environments, improved AI behavior, better graphics, etc, etc, etc. Despite Xbox head Phil Spencer's suggestion that a vast majority of players were playing cooperatively over Xbox Live instead, the community outcry was large and unignorable. People were making petitions, cancelling their pre-orders, and writing aggressive tweets to developers. Probably wasn't actually their fault, that's a shame. Long-term fans felt this was an insult not just to them, but the true essence of the franchise as a whole. In 2017, then head of the studio Bonnie Ross acknowledged this anger and promised that all subsequent Halo games would feature split-screen capability. Yet, just 4 years later, 343 backpedaled again when Halo Infinite launched without campaign split-screen co-op despite initial plans to include it. Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is much the same story, even requiring both players to have an Activision account and at least one to have a PlayStation Plus online subscription to play local split-screen, due to the way the game treats multiplayer modes, requiring an active internet connection to authenticate and load player profiles. And if you're playing on PC, PS4 or Xbox One, too bad. You can't play. It's already stripped back, 2-player only, not available for campaign mode at all. In today's gaming landscape, local split screen isn't dead per se, but it's definitely on life support. Local multiplayer games now occupy a specific niche that, for a lot of studios, doesn't make enough money to pursue full-time, or at all. For these companies, games you boot up every once in a while when friends are over isn't good enough, particularly when they could be developing the Fortnites and the FIFAs of the world, filled with microtransactions, artificial scarcity, and other opportunities for squeezing their fans dry and keeping them coming back in this global attention economy. And when you think about it, it always made sense for studios to push back against local multiplayer. Online infrastructure capitalizes on isolation better than local play ever could. To play your typical 4-player split-screen mode, you only need one copy of the game and one console, whereas an online-only multiplayer mode forces every player to buy their own version of the game and a console to run it. And that's before even mentioning the Game Passes and the PlayStation Plus and Xbox Lives of the world. When all the other opportunities to squeeze players for money exist, split-screen gaming looks like a straight-up revenue killer. Further, developing good split-screen modes requires more resources and effort during development. More views from more players means more rendering, particularly with more and more graphically demanding games, and I would argue more critically, shorter and shorter crunch times imposed by studios. While these restraints exist, the social value of these modes is easily worth the effort in my opinion. I'd much rather my game run slightly worse than not be able to play with the boys in person at all. The result of this decline? Gaming has become structurally isolated. The average play session for most people has taken the form of sitting alone in the darkness of their room, headset on, talking to someone who's doing exactly the same thing. In a way, you're together, but only in a sort of superficial, surface-level way. This shift mirrors a lot of broader post-pandemic social trends, where our social media platforms create the illusion of connection, but ultimately are more focused on the inauthentic entertainment ecosystem that keeps you on your phone and subsequently returns profit to shareholders. A poor substitute, then dictated by digital infrastructure, replaces the previous experience of community, leading to a sense of isolation and atomization, in spite of the perception that this period of history is the most connected we've ever been, coinciding with working people having increasingly less and less free time for gaming or, the rest of life, as their material conditions slowly worsen, and suddenly your second job turns into your third or your fourth. Whilst online multiplayer is no doubt great, it's frankly magic that you're able to experience games near instantaneously with friends hundreds of Ks away over call to keep a connection alive. But that's just it, really, isn't it? You enjoy your friend slop for a few hours, and then move on. Of course, it's inevitable to some extent that as you move through life and don't live near someone anymore, it doesn't really make sense to painstakingly coordinate schedules for them to come over for an hour or two to play Overcooked when you could just do it online and have a fairly similar experience. For even younger generations though, I do wonder how the ubiquity of free, low buy-in online gaming will go on to impact their incentives to put themselves out there and actually leave their houses to interact with their local gaming scenes, or even just each other generally, having maybe not even experienced phenomena as staple as fighting over the better controller, paired with some greasy pizza fingers, experiencing the pure delirium of a midnight sugar high, or the relief and satisfaction of finally grinding to beat a boss or a hard stage to finish a campaign. I worry that the concept of interacting with friends in real life to play in the year of our Lord 2026 is becoming more and more foreign to a generation of gamers raised by the internet, where online matchmaking and some of the most mainstream communities don't exactly have the shiniest of reputations. Infamously toxic is probably a better description for your average CS2 lobby even to this day. Just for example, I think it's just much easier to hold a grudge towards a faceless avatar than a real person sitting right next to you in the same room. And it's similarly easy to hide behind the veil of anonymity and lack of real consequences for your words and actions in spreading hateful rhetoric, much like larger parts of the internet as a whole. Whereas being face to face with another person, there's just more of a sense of connection and positivity that's naturally fostered, I think. While we probably have all done both, I think as a whole we've sieved more and wanted to do unspeakable things to random teammates than to our best friend. Some of my personal favourite gaming memories have been those shared with other people. Whether it was the brief but glorious period in year 10 at my high school when we worked out how to play LAN games of Halo CE in the library on the school's common drive, I still fondly remember staring down the clock, counting the seconds till the end of period 4 till lunch in anticipation. I'll never forgive our IT teacher for continuing to remove it. The pure magic of Wii Sports and Wii Fit on that ridiculously oversized balance board at Christmas with the whole family. The late night dorm room co-op on school trips when we were meant to be sleeping so we could go to bloody Questacon in the morning, the time we killed on the school bus sharing a cramped Lenovo ThinkPad keyboard to play games, the many hours my brother and I spent in the backseat on trips driving around Woohoo Town in Mario Kart 7 for the DS, or the dirty socks as my grandma used to call them, or the fiercely competitive sessions of Halo and FIFA on my brother's Xbox 360 that often ended in a fight. In one way or another, I wouldn't be the person I was today without these moments of connection that will stay with me forever. In many ways, to me, it's always felt like the most natural, raw version of gaming. The unfiltered, the direct, the low scale. It's just the way it's always felt like it's meant to be played, you know? I don't really want to play some shitty, free-to-play, microtransaction-filled slot fest over Discord during my free time. I want to go to my mate's house and fire up Halo 3, or Ultimate Chicken Horse. For decades now, local multiplayer gaming has been an inherently pro-social, human activity and a natural evolution and extension of our needs to play and create and share. In my opinion, nothing will ever hit the same as playing games on the couch in the same room. Being able to see the reaction on your friends' faces in real time, with no lag or barriers at all, is priceless. And I think it's important to mention here, great local multiplayer games are still being made. I'm sure I've been showing lots of them throughout this video. But It Takes Two, in particular, in 2021 won Game of the Year, and in the years since has sold over 20 million copies, all without even having a single player mode. And according to 2024 research, 20% of gamers say couch co-op is one of their favorite ways to play. And there is some hope, for me personally, as the younger the age group, the more likely they were to say co-op was one of their favorite game modes. Another study found 71% of multiplayer gamers still consider same room play important. 71%. And finally, co-op games accounted for just 6% of the 14K titles released on Steam last year, but made up 36% of the total units sold on the platform. From what I can see at least, it's actually, from an indie perspective, much easier to code a local multiplayer game than a heavily integrated, parasitic, loot box-filled online one. That particular comment is not going to age well in a few weeks, you'll see why. And who knows, maybe in 1,000 years when we've conquered death, poverty, and aging, and can instantly beam ourselves into each other's matrix mind pods, then local multiplayer can become the dominant flavor of the day once again. Just kidding, we'll all long be gone by then. With the right mates and the right games, local multiplayer is magic. And in trading physical proximity, passing a warm, slightly greasy controller from hand to hand, for the cloud and the cold efficiency of subscription models and losers queue, we've actually changed what it means in gaming to play together. Both online and local multiplayer can and have coexist, serving different needs and different situations. The demand is clearly there for both, and the technology hasn't fundamentally changed to make that reality an impossibility. Unfortunately though, the prospect of leaving money on the table isn't exactly one that the modern gaming giants are particularly interested in prioritising. So, if it has been a while, dust off the old 360 or the Wii, and fire up some split screen with the fellas. I promise you won't regret it. Thanks for watching.